Now I'm here at my favorite place during one of the most beautiful times of the day, sunrise. It's a bit cloudy at the moment, so it's a bit difficult to see the sun coming up, but it's time for another weekend drive. I thought I'd do a follow-up video on 5 things that I dislike about my Boxster GTS. Now, don't get me wrong, I have loved the car to bits, but nothing is perfect, so I thought I'd go through a few things that, if I could, I wish I could change. Let's go. Now that I've had the chance to have a proper hoon about around some of these amazing back roads and just reminded myself of all the reasons why I love this car, let's jump into 5 things that I dislike about it. So in this list, I'm going to try to include kind of Boxster GTS specific issues, so I'm not going to really cover general inconveniences of owning a sports car. So number 1 would definitely be power. Now this is talked about quite a lot, unfortunately, and it's something that I didn't think would be too much of an issue when I first bought the car. However, after having owned it for a little while and the novelty's worn off a little bit, and it sounds terrible, but I've gotten used to the sound a little bit as well, so the theatre is has gone away a little bit. It's definitely lacking in power. So it's got 243 kilowatts. You do have enough in the tight, twisty roads, you know, but when you need to really stretch your legs on long sections of road, you really do feel it. The torque is a bit of an issue as well. Well, look, it's a double-edged sword. It's naturally aspirated, so obviously you do generally need to rev it out. I mean, there is nothing under 3,000 RPM, so it's got 370 Newton meters of torque, but look, there's nothing down low, so you really need to get high up in the rev range to get anything out of it. Now, that is a good thing, and I've said it's you know, it's one of the positives of this engine. However, if you're just putting around town, and you know, I generally would like a bit more power down in the low end of things. The second little gripe I have with this car is how warm it gets in the cabin. Now, it's obviously a smaller cabin than a normal sedan or whatever, only being 2 seats, and the engine is right back there, I guess, and a lot of Alcantara and black interior, so look, a few different reasons why it probably would get warm, but it just gets incredibly warm incredibly quickly. So in Australia, where I am, the weather doesn't get that cold, so I guess that could be a benefit if you live in a climate where, you know, the weather's always pretty cold, but in Australia it's always pretty warm and it's a bit of an issue. Now obviously you can take the top down to alleviate that, but sometimes when you just want the top up and you're just cruising, it just gets pretty warm pretty quickly. The windows fog up pretty quickly as well, so even if it's cold outside and you want it warm in the cabin, the windows fog up, so you always have to put the demister on, which is definitely a bit of a hassle. Number 3 would be the lack of grills over the radiators. Now the GTS has 3 radiators. It's got 2 on the sides, 1 in the middle, so that's 1 more than the standard Boxster and the Boxster S. There are no grills or no protective elements to shield those radiators from anything. Now, fortunately, I haven't had any issues. However, I have heard of horror stories where a rock or something just punctures one of the radiators, and that's a really expensive fix. I just think that was a bit of an oversight on Porsche's part, because obviously they can incorporate a grille design, and they have in the Boxster Spider and the Cayman GT4. However, for some reason they've just decided not to put those grilles on the GTS and the S models and so on and so forth. Now, there are some aftermarket options out there. So when I looked before, there's the Zunsport grills that I've heard work really well. Apparently they're a pain to fit, but they are fairly good products from what I've heard. So there are options out there. However, look, it's really something that should have just come from the factory, to be honest, and I wish that they, just for peace of mind, I guess, that they would have put those grills in. Number 4 is, again, an issue that has been talked about quite a lot in regards to this car and the Boxster Spider and GT4 in particular. It's the gearing. Now, I'm sure Porsche had their reasons, fuel economy probably makes the engine sound a bit better as well. However, the gearing is incredibly long in this car. Again, something that I didn't think would be an issue when I bought the car. However, look, it really is. So on the racetrack, look, it's probably not an issue at all. However, and it's probably a benefit, you don't have to shift as much. With PDK, it's probably not too much of an issue. However, when you're on the road and you're in a tight, twisty section of road, you just stay in second gear. And look, you can shift unnecessarily, but it really would have been good to have maybe shorter gear ratios. Would have probably made the acceleration feel a bit better, and yeah, look, it probably just would have been a bit more enjoyable. Now, again, I think there are aftermarket alternatives there. I think Sharkworks makes a shortened, or they offer a modification to shorten the gear ratios. I'm not sure if they do it for the GTS. I know they do it for the Cayman GT4. However, again, something that I wish that maybe they had considered. But look, obviously Porsche has made a conscious decision there, so I'm not going to pretend to understand exactly why they did that. But look, from an enthusiast's point of view, it's a sports car. I want shorter gear ratios, and it would have been nice. So the 5th thing that I dislike about the car, and now I'm really stretching here, is it does drone. So as standard, the GTS comes with the sports exhaust, which is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, I love that thing. It sounds incredible. However, on that odd occasion where you just want to cruise, so I usually have the sports exhaust on. So the drone generally isn't as bad if you if you turn the valve to off. However, if you have it on and you're cruising in 5th, 6th, 7th, it can drone a little bit, especially around the 3,000 to 4,000 RPM mark. Well, there you have it. 5 things that I wish I could change about my car. Now, look, don't get me wrong, it took me ages to come up with this list. I really had to think hard about it because I absolutely love this car. But look, it's sometimes good to consider both sides of the equation. Nothing is perfect, and that includes this car. So if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and make sure to hit that like button. Till next time.